Like there's no other institution or organization that does the things that we do. And I think it's so important to continue those because it's what makes this place special. Mm-hmm. So if we didn't do all the things that we did, it'd be similar. It'd be easy to compare us to another university in a way. But it's not easy to compare Texas A&M to universities because of all the traditions and all this unique things that we have been doing for over 100 years that, for some reason, shape, or form, people just keep doing them and people keep coming back.
This is On Air with Student Affairs. I'm your host, Elizabeth Drake, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the traditions at Texas A&M. So I'd love to start today's episode by hearing a little bit about each of y'all and what your class is, what your major is, and what brought you to Texas A&M.
Yeah, I guess I can start. So my name is Tomas Heredia, and I'm from Bogota, Colombia. I'm a communications major, minor in business, senior, so finishing up in May, but staying 2 more years. What brought me to Texas A&M? I mean, it's a super long story, but, moved here from Colombia when I was 18 to pursue higher education here. I guess it's like the kind of sum it up. I joined the Corps for financial aid here, and that's kind of one of the main reasons, but, that's kind of the summary.
Yeah.
So my name is Hailey Hofstetter. I am a senior telecommunications media studies pre-law certificate performance studies minor here at Texas A&M. I'm from Falfurrias, Texas, so a very small town about 5.5 hours south of College Station. I ended up at Texas A&M. I toured when I was a junior, and I fell in love with campus before I even arrived. I saw next to right Kyle Field, and I felt like home, and it changed the rest of my life. I applied to other schools, and I was like, no matter what, I just know I'm going to Texas A&M, and that was a long story short.
No, awesome.
Absolutely. So my name is Truett Marrs, and I'm a junior agricultural leadership and development major and a psychology minor. I'm actually from College Station, and both of my parents worked on campus the majority of my life, so didn't really have much of another option in my mind. Grew up bleeding maroon and definitely wanted to pursue an education at A&M.
Yeah, me too. So obviously we're here today to talk a little bit about traditions. Could you guys share a little bit about the first Texas A&M tradition you participated in and what that was like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Mine was fish camp. An Aggie's first tradition is what it was marketed as. I did not want to go to fish camp at all whatsoever. One of my really good friends was a year older than me, and he was a fish camp counselor, and he called me and he was like, Hailey, I actually remember I was touring that school down there in Austin when he called. He's like, you need to go apply for fish camp right now. And I was like, I'm not going to apply for fish camp. It's such a long drive. And he hung up on me, he called my mom, and he did it for me. And because of that, he changed my life. Fish camp introduced me to just some of the best people, the best culture, and helped me realize that being a part of Texas A&M is truly something bigger than yourself. And for that, I'm forever grateful for my first tradition being fish camp.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My first was Midnight Yell. I remember it really well. I was 10 years old, and my mom got us sideline passes, which obviously is like a crazy plunge into the ice cold water of Aggie traditions. And I just, remember feeling the energy of all the students there and getting such a good sense of the camaraderie of the Aggie spirit and really being in awe of that. And that was definitely one thing that drove me to become a student at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a couple that you kind of have to go through when you join the Corps that are just like traditions that happen. But the first one that I truly do recall was Silver Taps because as Corps member, you have to go. I didn't really know much about what I was kind of going to. It's just something that kind of builds up throughout the week that you're upperclassmen and people are telling you that is going to happen. To give you the backstory of why we're doing this, so obviously it's because a current student had passed in that month. I always thought that was very important, obviously, but it was really, really interesting because you march over there, the campus is super dark, and I was like, I don't know, I was really confused as it was happening. Obviously, you're a freshman at that point. I didn't really know what was going on. And I remember, going, seeing the ceremony, seeing everything happen. And then when we walked back, what usually happens is people kind of just get together and kind of start talking about how everyone's doing. It's kind of like a mini tradition within a tradition at this point. Silver Taps is a day where you kind of get together and check in on everyone. And I remember my first sergeant at the time was one of my best friends in the world right now. His name's Eric Chavez. He's in the Air Force at this point. But yeah, he took his hat off and he kind of explained to us a little bit about why silver taps mean so much to him. And, he kind of explained that was his roommates that had passed away a year prior. He explained to us how important it is to him, how important it is to kind of his friends, his buddies, but also why it should be important to us, even if we, never knew the people. So I remember after that kind of made it easier to find a reason to stay at A&M. Obviously, it was completely different for me. I was finding reasons to leave because I was just not liking the freshman experience in the core and everything. But that made it really easy to just say, okay, wait, maybe this place is a little more unique than I thought and more special than I thought.
Yeah, that's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Clearly, you guys have all had very impactful first experiences with traditions at A&M. What made you want to get involved with the organization side of traditions?
For me, it was. I mean, clearly, to be completely honest, it was mentorship. People that really poured into me, they cared about me. Another one of my best friends, and I'll send him this. He's gonna laugh when I know I'm talking about him, but. His name is Brody Frazier, and he was the commanding officer of my outfit. I had made it through the first semester at that point, and he kind of sat me down one day and was like, hey, there's this thing called muster host. What is a muster host? I had no clue. I don't know what muster was at that point. I kind of heard about it. And he was like, I think you should go and you should apply. And I was like, I didn't really think much of it, but he kind of just took me there. Yeah, it took me to the information. I learned that I would be kind of hosting a family in muster, which I'm sure we'll get into, but which is one of the hardest nights maybe for some of these families. And I just kind of found that very unique, very special. Like, okay, I get to kind of be there for someone I've never met, but just kind of get to be with them for a couple minutes. So I remember applying with him and a couple other of people in my outfit. And, I ended up getting it that year. And I just remember after that first experience, it was something that I just kind of wanted to continue to be involved in. So I remember I left that night after the ceremony and I was like, what is another way that I can continue to be a part of this ceremony? And so thought about it that summer, made a pact with him. And I said, we're both going to apply to the committee. He backed out like a week before. He was a master's student, had stuff going on. So then I started doubting it. No, actually, never mind. If he's not going to do it, I'm not going to do it. He was like, no, you have to do it. And then after that, it's been 3 years being involved, 4 years at this point, so one of the best experiences ever.
Yeah.
So it started for me as a freshman. I was in my first week at Texas A&M, and MSC open house was happening. And so I went into the MSC, and I looked around at all the different organizations, and I remember finding Traditions Council tucked away sort of in the back corner. And the reason I walked up to the booth is actually because I recognized who was the chair at the time, because she was an FFA state officer. And so I went up and I introduced myself to her, and I heard a little bit about what the organization did. And I just remember being baffled by the fact that students were the ones in charge of these traditions. Growing up here, that's something that I'd never really known. I just sort of assumed that it was at the hands of the university to make all this happen. And so I got really interested in it, and I decided to apply. And that first year, I served as a member of the Bonfire Remembrance Committee, and it is truly one of the most formative years of my life. And having the opportunity to work behind the curtains of that tradition really got me fully engrossed in the Aggie spirit in a way that I didn't even know was possible whenever I was just, living in College Station.
Yeah, it really is so beautiful how ingrained students are in all the traditions that happen here on campus.
Absolutely.
Mine is stems from fish camp. So that same foundation, I went out to be a counselor. And the fish camp that I got, one of my co-chairs, he was the Bonfire Remembrance chair when we were freshmen. And we stayed up till 3 a.m. one night talking about Bonfire Remembrance and the memorial and all the details, because hearing about Bonfire Remembrance, Silver Taps, and Muster at Fish Camp, I had no idea these traditions existed. First gen Aggie had no idea what Texas A&M was about besides that feeling, right? Like that spirit that can never be told. And I felt so grounded and humbled to be a part of that. So when talking through it with him, he was like, Hailey, I really think you should apply for Traditions Council. And I was like, no, there's no way. They're like, I'm not that type of person. Like, they're so blah, blah, blah. I was like, there's no way. Like, again, these students are the ones doing everything. Traditions Council, Muster Committee, student-run, student-led organizations doing such high-impact work. And he texted me every day, I think you should apply for Traditions Council when we started school again. And shout out to Dylan Sayoni. Because of him, I applied and I got in, and it started. Fish Camp was my foundation, but Traditions Council showed me growth in the most high quality people I've ever met. And for that, I'm so grateful to be a part of University Tradition.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like too how all of your stories kind of the traditions build off of one another.
Yeah.
The core and muster, silver taps and fish camp, like it's so awesome how all of it connects. So for someone who might be watching that's never experienced an Aggie tradition or been a part of one, how would you explain it to them?
So there's many different traditions here on campus. You know, being an international student, I think I also get to see a lot of the side of the people that kind of love A&M for the school that it is, but don't really, you know, kind of participate in many traditions just because it's not something that is even talked about. I think I got lucky, to be completely honest, because I got people join the Corps that explained to me what all these things are, and then I got to see it. Like I was brought to all these things, and I got to see it. But for people that maybe, you know, haven't been to one or haven't seen one, there truly is no words that I could use to kind of describe kind of what muster is. It took me 3 years for my mom back home to understand what it is. And, you know, it's funny because I would tell her to turn on the live stream and she would understand it a little better and the things like that. But there's many different ones, and each one is specific in its own kind of way. What I would encourage people to do is to just like see them and experience them themselves. Each tradition is different. Each tradition is going to feel different for all of us, right? Like, I mean, I have a relationship with muster and I have a relationship with silver taps and things like that are completely different to each person. But that's what's kind of cool about it, right? I mean, everyone can have their own experience with it. But I mean, truly, I don't think there's words to kind of explain them. We could try, us three. I think we'd get close, but
it's difficult.
It's difficult, yeah.
Yeah, you said it beautifully, absolutely. We were talking earlier, like tours. So whenever I speak to prospective students, my favorite stop is talking about silver taps and muster. Sometimes it's their first introduction to the tradition. And my favorite thing to say every time is there is no feeling more grounding and more humbling than on a silver taps night at 10:15 when you hear the taps of the Corps of Cadets coming into Academic Plaza and the hymns of Amazing Grace that echo through the plaza. And as the families are walking, you hear the wind bristle through the trees and the birds flying away. And it's just, it's grounding. I feel like that's the only way you can describe a lot of these traditions. It's community driven. You might not see all of the people next to you at silver taps like you would at a midnight yell, but you feel the presence. And I think that's something really awesome that all students should experience.
Yeah,
definitely. And that was very beautifully put, Hailey. And I think that building off of that, you know, the best way that I can describe the traditions in an overarching sense is that they really are the glue that holds Aggieland together. I think that it's such a privilege to have access to the things that we do. And it's interesting because they managed to establish a culture at our university that regardless of where these students are coming from, you know, regardless of their backgrounds, their majors, their interests, their career aspirations, we are all united by the Aggie spirit. And I think that that's what makes us a family.
Yeah. So kind of building off what you said a little bit, why do you think it is so important for Aggies to practice these traditions, remember our history?
I think it's because it's who we are, like what the identity of this university is. I'll say something, and it's something that I've been thinking a lot about as we get closer to muster. I've heard muster speeches in the past talk about so many things, and something I really want to hone down this year is that sometimes like we forget that these things aren't normal because we've lived through them for a couple of years, but they're not.
Yeah.
Like the things that we do at this university are not normal at all. Like there's no other institution or organization that does the things that we do, and I think it's so important to continue those because it's what makes this place special. So if we didn't do all the things that we did, you know, it'd be similar. It'd be easy to compare us to another university in a way, but it's not easy to compare Texas A&M to universities because of all the traditions and all this unique things that we have been doing for over 100 years. That, you know, for some reason, shape, or form, people just keep doing them and people keep coming back, and you know, it's pretty cool. It's like you kind of said it. It's like a glue that holds us together. I think it's really cool. I mean, you meet old Aggs from class of '65 that have, you know, lived through the same experiences that I'm living through now. So it kind of creates a shared experience type thing too, where, you know, it's very easy to connect with people in here in this university. And I think that's a really cool part of it, I would say.
Yeah, it's the traditions involvement here are really what make it the Aggie experience.
I would say so.
I would say like a big component that helps current students be that bridge to former students is the camaraderie barbecue. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. There is nothing more awesome than sitting down with someone 50 years your senior and you guys still have so much in common. Their favorite college hangout spot is your favorite college hangout spot. You get to talk about Aggie football. Sometimes you share in remembrance as well over a plate of Cane's chicken strips and barbecue, which is so awesome. And I think those small little moments that are so intentionally curated create that long-lasting sense of history and tradition that get pushed forward.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that what I'm gathering from y'all's answers that I certainly agree with is that one of the most important things about Texas A&M's traditions is the sense of legacy that I think it gives us. The remembrance traditions, things like Big Event, Fish Camp, they all set up Aggies for future success based off of the experience of the people that have come before them. And so I think that in that regard, traditions are also really impactful.
I would love to touch a little more on what each of y'all's committees does to support Silver Taps and then Muster.
Yeah, absolutely. So Traditions Council is separated into 6 different committees: remembrance ceremonies, and then overall just institutional involvement, outreach and education, all those fun things. But our Silver Taps committee is led by Gia Granado. She's been our Silver Taps chair for the past 2 years. It has been incredible to see how her and her committee have innovated a tradition that is 100-some years old. So Silver Taps committee, their job is hosting the families. They are the greeters. They are that committee that makes them really feel the Aggie family. They meet them where they are, and they give them what anyone can give in a time of true remembrance and grief, which is undying compassion and love and support. And they're with the families throughout sometimes the day and the evening, because they also sometimes do tours of campus if families want. And then they try and connect that camaraderie through the rest of the year with Ring Remembrance at the association and then Muster as well. And then Traditions Council as a whole, for those that don't serve on Silver Taps Committee, but in other areas, they work the actual plaza. So if you see students holding a "please turn off your phone, no bike zone," that is our members. They humbly serve behind the scenes and in the shadows, and we're incredibly proud to have all 60 of them on our committee. They're incredible.
Absolutely. And another cool thing that Traditions Council as a whole gets to do is working the letter writing tables across campus. And for people who don't necessarily know what letter writing is, Traditions Council has tables stationed throughout campus to collect letters the students can write directly to the families of our Silver Taps honorees. And so that's a really unique way for students to, make them feel more accommodated and welcome and, again, serve as a face of the university. We have letter writing stations at on West Campus, outside of West Campus dining facility, or actually we've moved to Clayburg now, but in the MSC and then in Zach, and I'm not missing anything.
And on the quad as well.
And on the quad as well, yes.
So letter writing opens up the Monday before the ceremony at 9 a.m. and we shut down tables at around 2. So that's going to be the Monday and Tuesday of the ceremony, and we also offer an online submission form as well. We've been very fortunate throughout this year to run out of stationery every month, and we're so honored that so many students are being proactive and visitors as well. It's open to those alike to just share the condolences to those families, and those letters get sent to every individual honorees' families. And though we may not be there with them when they open the letters, we know that any student, if you knew their loved one or not, taking the time, it just gives a family so much love and support in a time that is so needed.
It really does mean the world to them. They've reached out and, told our Silver Taps chairs in the past just how much it means to them. And I think that it truly is one of the most impactful ways that you can directly play a part in our traditions. I also do want to add that on top of tabling, we do have individual reflections displays for each of our honorees in their respective college buildings.
Yeah. I can't imagine the impact that has on families who are obviously going through the unimaginable, but knowing that the Aggie family cares so much still about their student and about them in addition to that. Would you like to share a little bit about Muster? Yeah,
of course. So I have the privilege of this year of serving as the chair of the Muster Committee. And the Muster Committee is, it has always been something I look up to of the people. It's 34 students that have the full responsibility of the ceremony in April 21st in Reed Arena here on campus. And that looks completely different and depending on the position that you have. So the committee's run with 5 subcommittees that kind of spread all differently around one area of the ceremony. Something that I've been thinking about too this year is, every year there's a new group of people that are doing this, but they all do it really well. And this, ceremony has been happening for so many years at this point that you're just trying to build upon something that happened last year, for example, and we're just trying to make it better, continue it. That's like what we're, the main goal. But 34 students who, dedicate every single Tuesday and, maybe 8 hours a week of their life and as a student to just serve in a specific role that people are probably never going to know what they did, and they're not, because it's very specific to something, but they do it throughout the whole year to just make sure that that moment, that night, April 21st, just goes as perfect as possible for the families and for the students and for everyone over there. So I've always had this admiration for it when I was a freshman and a sophomore, because it really is just truly selfless what they do. There's nothing like connected to it in terms of, getting praise or anything. I mean, you're just doing this because you really care about the tradition and you care about the people. So, two things that I want to add to that is, so when I was a sophomore, for example, one job that I had in a muster committee was a roll call coordinator. I remember being really scared to have that job, because that job, it basically entails you are calling the families that have lost people throughout the year to make sure that they have everything that they need in terms of April 21st and getting them on the roll call that year. So there was 168 names that year in the roll call, and I remember speaking to maybe more than half of those families, and that was like my job. I mean, you do that throughout the whole year. Then junior year, I was, leading a small group of 3 people in choosing the campus muster speaker. I mean, it's all student run. I mean, it really is all student run. And something that I didn't know about when I was a freshman is that it is all student run. Yeah. Same with Traditions Council and everything they do. I mean, it's all student run. I mean, there is an advisor that we have, but other than that, it's all students that do it. Mm-hmm. So it truly is a privilege to get to do what we get to do, that they kind of give us so much power as well, because it's kind of built on trust. I mean, we trust the students, the university trusts the students, and, we take that trust and we kind of run with it. And on top of that, I'm just, very briefly going to touch on the fact that we've probably learned so much from being this and being the roles that we have in the past 3 years. Oh, yeah. So it really is getting involved in any organization so unique and probably so powerful for your future, your personal development, all of that. Juggling, I mean, your career in college, personal relationships, life, plus, 60 people, Hailey, has probably been something that you have learned so much about.
Absolutely.
And it's just really cool that you get to do it with something that's so meaningful as well. So,
and it's great to collaborate with committees like Muster. It's nice on the coldest building. We all have offices near each other. So one of my favorite memories, I'm just going to throw in here, it was 5 days before Bonfire Remembrance, and myself and Ian Buchanan, our outreach and education director, were making ribbons, and we dropped something, and Tomas goes, "Hello?" And we go into his office, and we just sat there talking for an hour, and just being able to have that community amongst these committees has been such a beautiful experience as well, being able to pour into each other as you pour into other people.
Yeah, I can't. It's so awesome. You guys, all the work that you do. I know you shared a little memory. Do you guys have anything to share about all of the work that you've done that stands out to you, or anything impactful, any stories?
I mean, over my entire past 3 years in Traditions Council, and arguably the most impactful thing that I've had the opportunity to do has been chairing the 25th Bonfire Remembrance Ceremony. So having the opportunity to put that together alongside my committee was really unique. I came into it a little bit nervous about what to do to make the 25th anniversary special, how we could best accommodate the families and ensure that they felt welcomed and that they saw that the legacies of their loved ones are still very prevalent on campus even 25 years after the tragedy occurred. And I think that the memory that stands out to me the most is for the 25th anniversary, we decided to put together a remembrance dinner that was exclusive to the families of our honorees right before the ceremony. And so last year, it was leading up to the dinner, and I was super anxious about how it was going to go. I was thinking, is this going to be really awkward and solemn? But I just remember one of the greatest feelings being standing outside the dinner room with my committee, welcoming people, and hearing the room echo with laughter as more and more families walked in. That was a really rewarding experience.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's obvious that your work that you guys have done through Traditions has had such a huge impact on all of your Aggie experiences. Do you have anything you wanted to share?
Yeah, there's so many. I mean,
it's probably hard to pick.
Yeah, you said the question, and I think a million things pop into my head. I'll probably say this one from last year. So I remember, as I said, speaker and development executive, basically just in charge of helping a team of 3 people choose the speaker, plus just intercommittee things. So speakers for our meetings and development on the philanthropy side. So really cool experience that I got to do last year. But going through this process and getting Lieutenant General Downs, class of 92, He's the father of one of my good friends too, in RV, Zach Downs, which is really cool. But getting to do that year was insane. I mean, I never thought I would get so close to somebody that I never thought I would ever talk to in my life, and seeing his passion for A&M, even as a 3-star general for the Air Force, is insane. He's probably one of the busiest people in the world right now. Last year, I remember having to do meetings with him on Zoom at 10 p.m. because he would leave the Pentagon at like 7. And I would just, yeah, sir, do you need anything else from me or something like that? All I remember is after the ceremony. So, I mean, I had spoken at that point. I mean, that in itself, speaking, I can get into that and I can talk to like 20 minutes about how much that meant to me. Did not feel like I should be there, but it happened and it was good. But we walked back down, back into the room after the ceremony was over. And I remember seeing Lieutenant General Downs with tears in his eyes, and he just came up to me and he gave me a hug and he was like, this has been one of the best experiences of my life. And I kind of tried to reciprocate with words. They weren't really coming out. I was just like, sir, thank you, thank you for giving me this experience with working with you. And it's just like, that's just me and him. Right. Mm-hmm. And that was so meaningful. But in the same room, there was, the chair, Abby, hugging somebody else. And there was, the other execs with me hugging each other. And I mean, if it meant this much to me just to give this man a hug, and I'm seeing this all around, I mean, you can only imagine what the floor was like after people were giving each other hugs and students kind of walking past, maybe thinking about, their own life and maybe their loved ones. And, my committee, they run around after the ceremony trying to just pick up things and everything. But I know there was like that brief moment for everybody. And that to me is insane. Like everybody got that moment with someone or even by yourself, but I thought that was really cool. I still vividly remember that. I have a picture of it. I show it to people sometimes. Like, yep, this is me crying with a 3-star general.
That's awesome. Sweet. Wow. How inspiring for you. And then also for our listeners that this former Aggie who's had so much happen in his life since he's left Texas A&M is still so passionate about A&M and the traditions and honoring former students. Oh,
he made it happen. He said I was going to make it happen. And that's a trend with many Aggies now, obviously. You see that, I mean, wanting to be involved with A&M after 20, 30, 40 years of graduation, I don't think is hard, for many people because they love this place so much that they just find a way. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for anyone watching who might want to get involved with Traditions Council or Muster Committee, what do you guys recommend that they do?
Absolutely. So Traditions Council starts their recruitment process in the fall. We are in the middle of transitioning leadership right now, which is really exciting that we have our new chair taking over, Paige Pesic, and she's getting her team. So if they are interested and you have any questions throughout the summer, please DM us on Instagram at Trad Council or go to our website, TAMU Traditions, and you can message us directly from there and they can help with any questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say, kind of the same thing. Recruitment is in fall. So, Aggie Muster on Instagram, DM, all of that stuff. But get involved. I mean, with whether it's Tradition Council or Muster Committee or any other organization, just do it. If these two, centered on tradition kind of speak to you a little more, please just put your name out there. You learn so much from the process, even if you don't get it. But if you do, you get to work on something so unique that you're never going to get to work on again in your life. I'm never going to get to do this ever again. So that's really, really impactful. So, just get involved. It's one of the best things you could do in college, especially at Texas A&M.
I would love to add, and you don't have to be involved with traditions through Traditions Council or through Muster Committee or any other committee that may specialize in Maroon Out or big event. Just show up, and you don't need to bring anything. You don't need to dress a certain way. You just need to go and bring yourself. Silver Taps, we have a Silver Taps this upcoming month, April 7th at 10:30 p.m. Academic Plaza. We will be honoring 2 members of our Aggie family, and we would love to see as many students, visitors, former students out there to really help support them. So outside of, if you want to be behind the scenes, you know where to go. But if you just want to be involved with tradition, keep a lookout. They're happening everywhere, all around us, all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, to add on to what Hailey was saying, just be there, I think, is a great part of being in the tradition. If you don't want to be involved behind the scenes, your presence means way more than you might think. So in April 21st at 7 p.m. at Reed Arena, we're going to have Aggie Muster here on campus, and along with over 300 that are going to be happening around the world. Your presence means so much more that you might think. And every family member after every muster comes up to me and says that, having that arena filled fills their heart and, really does show them that A&M is there for them and that we're there for them. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you guys so much for coming on today and sharing just a little bit more about traditions at Texas A&M. It's so obvious that being involved with traditions at A&M has had such an impact on your own Aggie experiences, but on so many other Aggies as well. So we really appreciate you guys coming on the podcast today.
Absolutely.
Thanks, and
Gig 'em.